What if I told you that who you are is not who you have to be? That your identity, the way you see yourself, the thoughts you think, the life you live, is not something you were born with, but something that was programmed into you? And what if you realized that the world's most powerful people have known this all along? Most people go through life believing they are fixed, that their personalities, habits, and beliefs are simply part of who they are. But what if that's the greatest illusion of all? The truth is, identity is not fixed. It is fluid, malleable, and entirely within your control, if you know how to shape it. And this is precisely what the world's elite are taught from birth. Think about the richest, most successful people on the planet. They weren't simply lucky. They didn't just stumble upon wealth or influence. From an early age, they were conditioned to think differently, to see themselves not as ordinary, but as extraordinary. Their beliefs about money, power, and personal success were cultivated in a way that most people will never experience. And because identity is self-reinforcing, they continue to succeed while others struggle. But here's the shocking part. This is not reserved for the elite. You too have the ability to shift your identity, to completely rewrite the mental script that has been running your life. The question is, are you ready to do it? Imagine waking up tomorrow with the ability to think, act, and perform like the most powerful people in the world. Imagine shedding the limitations that have held you back and stepping into a version of yourself that is unstoppable. This is not about pretending. This is about becoming. This is where identity shifting comes in. It is the art and science of reshaping who you are from the inside out, breaking free from the mental programming you've inherited, and installing a new self-image, one that aligns with success, confidence, and limitless potential. For centuries, mystics, philosophers, and psychologists have explored the power of self-perception. The Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung believed that true personal transformation comes through a process called individuation, the conscious integration of all aspects of oneself. But the elite don't just integrate their past, they actively rewrite their future. They shape their self-concept with precision, using psychology, neuroscience, and even ancient wisdom to craft an identity that magnetizes success. You see, identity is not just about self-perception. It is the lens through which you experience reality. If you believe you are limited, your mind will filter the world to confirm that belief. If you believe you are destined for greatness, your brain will highlight opportunities that align with that expectation. This is why some people rise to power effortlessly, while others remain trapped in mediocrity. It all comes down to the mental framework they operate from. But here's the best part. You can change your framework. Right now, you have the ability to shift your identity, to step into the mindset of the elite, and to start seeing the world through the eyes of someone who commands success. And in the coming sections, I'll show you exactly how. We'll explore the hidden architecture of identity, the neuroscience behind transformation, and the psychological conditioning that the wealthy use to shape their success from childhood. We'll break down the rituals, habits, and mental strategies that allow the elite to craft their reality. And most importantly, we'll uncover how you can apply these secrets to your own life, no matter where you're starting from. So, are you ready to take control of your identity? Because once you learn what you're about to discover, there's no going back. The hidden architecture of identity. Have you ever questioned why you think the way you do? Why you react to certain situations in a particular manner? Why some things seem possible while others feel out of reach? Most people don't realize that their entire self-concept, their identity, is not something they consciously chose. It was constructed, shaped, layer by layer. From the moment you were born, you were given a name, a nationality, a culture, a belief system. Your parents, teachers, society. All of them imposed identities upon you before you ever had the chance to decide who you truly wanted to be. And because identity is reinforced through repetition, you absorb these labels as truth. But what if they were never true to begin with? What if the person you think you are is merely the result of conditioning? The elite understand this better than anyone. From childhood, they are not merely told who they are. They are trained to see themselves in a specific way. They are exposed to wealth, influence, and high-achieving individuals, making success feel normal, expected, even inevitable. They are conditioned to believe in their own power, and because the mind seeks to validate its own beliefs, they grow up with an unshakable sense of confidence and control. But here's the thing. Identity is not a singular fixed entity. It is a construct, one that is influenced by psychology, culture, and even spirituality. The Swiss psychologist Carl Jung referred to this as individuation, the process of becoming aware of the different aspects of oneself and integrating them into a whole. Most people, however, never reach this stage. They remain stuck in identities that were handed to them, never realizing they have the power to reconstruct themselves from the ground up. The Italian psychiatrist Roberto Assagioli, in The Act of Will, took this concept even further. He argued that identity is not just something we inherit, it is something we can direct. He believed that through conscious intention, one could reshape their personality, behaviors, and even their fate. This is precisely how the world's elite operate. They don't wait for identity to form naturally. They build it, actively and deliberately. This is why elite families ensure their children grow up in environments that reinforce their identity. They are not exposed to failure in the same way the average person is. Their surroundings are curated to strengthen their self-image, to constantly affirm their superiority, intelligence, and leadership abilities. And because identity is reinforced through environment, they become a reflection of the world they are immersed in. Now think about this in your own life. What kind of environment have you been immersed in? What beliefs have been handed down to you that may not serve you? Have you ever considered that the limits you perceive in your life are merely reflections of the limits imposed on your identity? Here's the truth. If identity is constructed, then it can also be reconstructed. If you were conditioned to see yourself in one way, you can recondition yourself to see something else. The elite have been doing this for centuries. The question is, why haven't you? If your identity is the foundation of your reality, then shifting it means shifting everything. Your opportunities, your relationships, your level of success. All of it begins with how you see yourself. And the good news? You can begin the process of rewriting that script right now. Because once you recognize that identity is an illusion, one that you have the power to change, you are no longer trapped by the limitations of your past. You become the architect of your own future. Neuroplasticity and the science of self-transformation. If identity is something that can be constructed, then it can also be reconstructed. But how? What is the actual mechanism that allows a person to shift from one version of themselves to another? The answer lies in neuroscience, specifically in the brain's ability to rewire itself. For years, scientists believed the brain was a fixed structure, that once a person reached adulthood, their patterns of thought, behavior, and identity were locked in place. But modern research has shattered this idea. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change and adapt, proves that nothing about you is set in stone. Your thoughts, beliefs, even your sense of self are malleable, and the elite have long understood how to use this knowledge to shape themselves into powerful, high-achieving individuals. Dr. Norman Doidge's The Brain That Changes Itself explores this revolutionary concept, showing how the brain can rewire itself through focused attention, repetition, and intention. This means that identity is not just a psychological construct, it is a neurological one. Your self-concept, who you believe you are, is encoded in neural pathways, but these pathways can be altered. This is where the reticular activating system, RAS, comes into play. The RAS is a network in your brainstem that acts as a filter, determining what information reaches your conscious mind. It decides what you notice and what you ignore based on what it believes is relevant to you. If your identity is programmed for mediocrity, your RAS will filter the world in a way that confirms this belief. You will unconsciously ignore opportunities for growth, success, and transformation. But if you shift your identity, your RAS will begin to highlight different aspects of reality. If you condition yourself to believe that you are powerful, capable, and destined for success, your brain will actively seek out evidence to support this new identity. This is why the wealthy train their minds from a young age, because they understand that perception is reality. The philosopher René Descartes famously said, "I think, therefore I am." But what if we take this one step further? What if it's not just about thinking, but believing? What if the foundation of identity is not merely thought, but deeply ingrained conviction? The elite understand this at a profound level. They are taught to reinforce their self-image through constant exposure to wealth, power, and high-achieving circles. Their identity is shaped through environment, repetition, and controlled belief systems. This is why techniques like visualization, affirmations, and identity scripting are not just self-help gimmicks. They are neurological reprogramming tools. The more you repeat a belief, the stronger the neural connections associated with that belief become. Over time, those connections solidify into your new default identity. The philosopher William James, one of the pioneers of modern psychology, once wrote, "The greatest discovery of my generation is that a human being can alter his life by altering his attitudes of mind." Science has now confirmed what ancient wisdom has always suggested. Your mind shapes your reality. Your thoughts sculpt your identity. And when you change your identity at a core level, everything else in your life begins to shift. So ask yourself, who have you trained your brain to believe you are? And more importantly, who do you want to become? Because with the power of neuroplasticity, you're not just a passive participant in your life. You are the sculptor of your own mind. The psychology of elite identity conditioning. Imagine two children born on the same day. One grows up in a wealthy, high-achieving family where success is an expectation, not a hope. The other is raised in an environment filled with limitations, where money is scarce, ambition is seen as arrogance, and failure is feared rather than embraced. By the time they reach adulthood, these two individuals will have vastly different views of themselves and the world. But why? What separates them isn't intelligence or talent. It's identity conditioning. The wealthy don't raise their children with the same mindset as the average person. Their children are conditioned from birth to see themselves as powerful, capable, and deserving of success. This is not by accident, it is by design. And this conditioning begins long before they ever step into the real world. Psychologist Carol Dweck's research on fixed versus growth mindsets explains why some people thrive under pressure, while others crumble. A fixed mindset is the belief that intelligence, talent, and success are inherent traits. You either have them or you don't. A growth mindset, on the other hand, is the belief that abilities can be developed, skills can be learned, and success is simply a result of effort and adaptation. The elite are taught a growth mindset from childhood. They are not afraid of failure because they have been conditioned to see it as a stepping stone, not a setback. David L. Watson and Roland G. Tharp in Self-Directed Behavior explore the psychology of behavior modification, how thoughts, emotions, and identity can be reshaped through strategic reinforcement. The elite use this principle in the way they raise their children. Positive reinforcement is used to strengthen beliefs of power and capability, while limiting beliefs are systematically eliminated. The environment plays a critical role as well. The wealthy ensure that their children are surrounded by success from an early age. They are sent to the best schools, introduced to powerful mentors, and immersed in cultures of achievement. Because identity is shaped by environment, these children grow up expecting success rather than hoping for it. Contrast this with the average person, whose environment is often filled with messages of limitation. Money is hard to earn. Success is for other people, not us. Be realistic. These beliefs, repeated over and over, become embedded in the subconscious mind, creating an invisible ceiling that is difficult to break through. But here's the secret. Identity conditioning is not reserved for the elite. It is a psychological process that can be replicated by anyone who understands it. Just as the brain can be conditioned into limitation, it can also be conditioned into power. The key is to become aware of the beliefs that have shaped your identity and to systematically replace them with new, empowering ones. The world's most powerful people did not stumble into their identities. They were trained, molded, and shaped into them. The question is, are you willing to train yourself in the same way? Because once you take control of your own conditioning, you are no longer at the mercy of the identity that was handed to you. You become the author of your own self-concept. And when you change that, you change everything. The rituals of identity embodiment. If you want to shift your identity, you must do more than just think differently. You must become different. The elite don't just believe they are powerful, they embody it. Their identity is reinforced through daily rituals, habits, and symbolic actions that continuously affirm their self-concept. This is where most people fail. They attempt to change their mindset, but continue living as their old selves. The world's most powerful individuals understand that identity is not just an idea, it is a practice. Throughout history, mystics, philosophers, and successful leaders have used rituals to transform their consciousness. Ancient spiritual traditions knew that repetition, symbolism, and sacred acts could alter a person's perception of themselves. The elite have adopted these principles in a modern context, using daily rituals to reinforce their desired identity. James Clear in Atomic Habits explains that our habits are not just actions. They are votes for the kind of person we believe ourselves to be. Every action we take either strengthens or weakens our self-image. This is why the wealthy and powerful develop disciplined routines. They wake up at specific times, dress in ways that reinforce confidence, and engage in daily practices that keep their minds sharp and focused. Elite families teach their children early on that every aspect of their life is a reflection of their identity. They are trained to walk, speak, and present themselves with certainty. Their surroundings are designed to affirm their self-worth. Luxury, excellence, and achievement are normalized. This is no accident. The subconscious mind absorbs patterns from the environment, so their world is meticulously curated to condition them for success. This is why symbolic reinforcement is crucial. Throughout history, kings and emperors wore crowns, robes, and insignias that represented power. These weren't just decorations. They were psychological anchors that reinforced their role. The elite today use the same principle. The way they dress, the places they go, the company they keep, all of it reinforces their identity. But this doesn't mean you need wealth or power to implement these strategies. You can begin by shifting small aspects of your life to align with your desired identity. If you see yourself as a powerful, confident person, how would you dress? How would you carry yourself? What daily habits would reinforce that belief? When you act as if your transformation has already taken place, your subconscious mind begins to align with it. Spiritual traditions also emphasize the importance of rituals in self-transformation. Hindu philosophy teaches that consistent discipline, tapas, is the key to reshaping oneself. Sufi mysticism speaks of zikr, the practice of repeating sacred phrases to rewire the mind. Modern neuroscience confirms that repetition is one of the most powerful tools for reprogramming identity. This is why the elite are consistent. They don't allow their identity to be shaped by randomness or circumstance. They reinforce it daily through intentional practice. Their success is not an accident. It is a byproduct of identity embodiment. So ask yourself, what rituals do you have? Do they reinforce limitation or do they reinforce power? Because the actions you take every day are casting a vote for the person you are becoming. And once you start acting as the version of yourself you wish to be, transformation is no longer just a possibility. It becomes inevitable. Mental scripts and self-talk reprogramming. Your identity is shaped by the story you tell yourself. Every day, whether you realize it or not, you're narrating your own life. You are reinforcing ideas about who you are, what you're capable of, and what kind of future awaits you. The problem is, most people are running scripts that were given to them, scripts filled with limitations, self-doubt, and inherited fears. But here's the truth. The elite don't just accept the mental narratives handed to them. They rewrite them. Self-talk is the most powerful programming tool of the mind. The way you speak to yourself determines your confidence, your decisions, and ultimately your success. If your inner dialogue is filled with thoughts like, "I'm not good enough," or "I always struggle," your brain will work to confirm those beliefs. But if your self-talk reinforces power, success, and capability, your mind will shape your reality to match. This is not just a motivational idea, it's backed by psychology. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, one of the most effective forms of mental reprogramming, is based on the principle that thoughts shape emotions and emotions shape behavior. Dr. Martin Seligman, in Learned Optimism, explains that people who train themselves to think in empowering ways experience higher success rates in life. They don't just react to circumstances, they control how they perceive them. The wealthy and powerful raise their children with this principle in mind. From an early age, elite families ensure that negative self-talk is minimized and empowering narratives are installed. They use affirmations, visualization, and strategic reinforcement to condition confidence. These children grow up believing that success is their default state, not something they have to struggle for. Now think about your own internal dialogue. What do you repeatedly tell yourself? If your subconscious beliefs were written out as a book, would it be the story of a powerful, unstoppable individual, or the story of someone trapped by limitations? The mind operates like a computer. It runs on whatever software it has been programmed with. If you want different results in life, you don't just need to try harder. You need to install a new mental script. This is why identity shifting requires conscious effort. You must become hyper-aware of the way you talk to yourself and actively replace disempowering thoughts with new, success-driven ones. One of the most powerful tools for this is autosuggestion, a concept made famous by Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich. He discovered that repeating certain affirmations daily could reprogram the subconscious mind. The elite use this principle to their advantage. They don't just say affirmations occasionally, they internalize them until these thoughts become truth. Spiritual traditions have long understood this as well. In Buddhism, the concept of mantra meditation is based on repeating sacred sounds to shift consciousness. Sufi mysticism uses zikr, verbal repetition of divine names, to realign the mind with higher states of being. Neuroscience confirms that repetition is one of the most effective ways to rewire neural pathways. So, how do you apply this in your own life? First, become aware of the self-talk you've been running. Identify the limiting beliefs that have shaped your reality. Then, consciously replace them. Start speaking to yourself as if you are already the person you want to become. Instead of, "I struggle with money," say, "I am financially intelligent and attract opportunities easily." Instead of, "I'm not confident," say, "I carry myself with power and certainty." The secret is consistency. The elite don't wait for confidence to come to them. They program it into themselves. They shape their identity through relentless reinforcement. If you do the same, your subconscious mind will begin to believe it. And once your subconscious accepts a new identity, the rest of your life will follow. The role of selective association and influence. Have you ever noticed how people begin to mirror the habits, speech, and even success levels of those they spend the most time with? It's not a coincidence. It's a psychological principle known as social conditioning, and the elite have mastered it to shape their identity and maintain their power. Most people believe they have complete control over their thoughts, but the truth is, much of what we think, believe, and expect from life is absorbed from those around us. If you spend time with people who constantly complain about money, success, or opportunities, your subconscious mind begins to adopt those limitations. On the other hand, if you surround yourself with individuals who expect success, discuss growth strategies, and reinforce a winning mindset, your identity will shift in that direction. Sociologist Robert K. Merton described this phenomenon through the concept of the self-fulfilling prophecy. When a person is told something about themselves repeatedly, whether it's positive or negative, they begin to embody it. This is why the elite are highly selective about who they associate with. Their social circles are designed to reinforce their self-image of power, intelligence, and success. Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power explains that influence is not random, it is engineered. Those who control their social environments control their identities. The wealthy and powerful carefully curate the people they allow into their lives. They avoid those who drain energy, discourage ambition, or reinforce limiting beliefs. Instead, they seek out relationships that push them forward, expose them to higher levels of thinking, and challenge them to evolve. Think about this in your own life. Who do you spend the most time with? What kind of conversations dominate your daily interactions? Are they reinforcing the person you want to become, or are they keeping you trapped in an outdated identity? The ancient Greek philosopher Socrates believed that the company we keep directly influences our character. He argued that to grow into a higher version of ourselves, we must surround ourselves with people who elevate us. This is why elite families raise their children in high-status environments. From an early age, they are exposed to mentors, thought leaders, and successful figures who shape their self-image. Success is not presented as a distant goal. It is modeled as the norm. This is also why many self-made individuals experience radical transformation when they change their environment. When you remove yourself from circles that reinforce limitation and instead immerse yourself in success-driven environments, your subconscious mind begins to recalibrate. Your identity starts aligning with the new reality you're exposed to. Even spiritual traditions emphasize the power of association. In Hindu philosophy, the concept of satsang, being in the company of wise, enlightened individuals, is seen as one of the fastest ways to accelerate personal growth. The same principle applies in modern psychology. When you are surrounded by people who operate at a higher level, you naturally absorb their mindset, beliefs, and behaviors. So how do you apply this? Start by evaluating your current social environment. Identify the individuals who uplift and inspire you versus those who reinforce self-doubt or mediocrity. Then, make a conscious effort to expand your circle. Engage with books, mentors, and communities that reflect the identity you want to cultivate. Because ultimately, who you associate with is not just a reflection of who you are, it is a preview of who you are becoming. The influence of quantum physics on identity shifting. For centuries, philosophers, mystics, and scientists have debated the nature of reality. What if I told you that identity is not just a psychological or social construct, but something deeply connected to the very fabric of the universe? What if who you are is not just a product of past experiences, but a function of your consciousness shaping reality itself? This idea isn't just spiritual speculation, it's grounded in quantum physics. The elite understand this at a level most people never will. They don't just believe they are successful, they expect reality to bend in their favor. They operate with a certainty that rewires not only their own minds, but the very outcomes they experience in life. One of the most fascinating principles in quantum physics is the observer effect. Scientists have discovered that at the subatomic level, particles behave differently depending on whether they are being observed. This suggests that consciousness itself plays a role in shaping reality. Dr. Robert Lanza in Biocentrism argues that the universe doesn't create consciousness. Consciousness creates the universe. If this is true, then your identity, the way you perceive yourself, is not just a reflection of reality. It is an instruction to reality. Think about what this means in practical terms. If your consciousness affects reality, then your identity, your self-image, beliefs, and expectations acts like a quantum blueprint for your life. The elite understand that certainty is a powerful force. They don't hesitate, they don't dwell in doubt. They assume success, and because their minds are wired with this certainty, their actions, decisions, and the way they interact with the world align with that assumption. This is where quantum entanglement comes into play. Quantum entanglement is the phenomenon where two particles become interconnected, no matter how far apart they are. A change in one instantly affects the other. Some scientists believe this could explain why thoughts and intentions seem to influence events in ways we don't fully understand. In the realm of identity shifting, this suggests that when you deeply internalize a new self-concept, reality begins to reorganize itself to reflect that shift. Mystical traditions have taught this for thousands of years. Ancient Egyptian Hermetic philosophy, as described in the Kybalion, teaches the principle of mentalism, the idea that all is mind and that reality is a projection of thought. Hindu philosophy speaks of Maya, the illusionary nature of the physical world, suggesting that perception and consciousness shape what we experience. The elite use this knowledge in a practical way. They train their minds to expect the outcomes they desire. They visualize their success so vividly that their subconscious mind accepts it as reality, and their actions follow suit. They operate with an unshakable belief in their own power, and as a result, the world mirrors that belief back to them. This is why identity shifting is so much more than just positive thinking. It is about aligning your consciousness with the reality you wish to create. If your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs send signals to the quantum field, then shifting your identity isn't just an internal process, it's an act of creation. So, what reality are you currently creating? If you were to strip away all self-doubt, hesitation, and limiting beliefs, who would you be? Because the moment you decide to see yourself differently, not just on the surface, but at the deepest level, reality begins to shift with you. The question is, Are you willing to step into that new version of yourself, knowing that the universe will respond in kind? Visualization, mental rehearsal, and self-hypnosis. What if you could rehearse success before it happens? What if, by training your mind to experience victory before it manifests in the physical world, you could accelerate your transformation into the person you want to become? This is not just wishful thinking. It is a technique the elite have been using for generations. The mind does not distinguish between real and vividly imagined experiences. Neuroscientific studies have shown that when you visualize something with enough intensity, your brain activates the same neural pathways as if you were actually experiencing it. This means that you can precondition your mind for success before it even arrives. Olympic athletes, Fortune 500 CEOs, and world-class performers all use this technique. They mentally rehearse their victories until they become second nature. Timothy Galway, in The Inner Game of Tennis, describes how peak performance is not just about physical skill, but about mental mastery. He explains that those who succeed at the highest levels do not simply react to their environment. They create it internally first. This is why the elite dedicate time each day to mental rehearsal. They visualize every detail of their future success, making it feel real in their minds before it ever materializes. This technique is not new. Ancient mystics, yogis, and shamans have long understood that visualization is a form of energetic alignment. The Hermetic teachings of the Kybalion emphasize that the mind is the ultimate creative force, and that by holding a clear image of what one desires, reality must eventually conform to that vision. In Tibetan Buddhism, monks use samatha meditation to train their minds to hold an unwavering focus on a single outcome. In the Western esoteric tradition, guided visualization has been used for centuries as a tool for manifestation. But visualization alone is not enough. The elite take it a step further with self-hypnosis. Hypnosis is one of the most powerful ways to access the subconscious mind and install new beliefs. While most people go through life controlled by subconscious programming they never chose, the elite deliberately rewire their minds using hypnotic techniques. They create identity scripts, statements, and mental images that reinforce their desired self-concept and repeat them in a deeply relaxed state until they become automatic. Think about the power of this. If the subconscious mind controls over 90% of our thoughts, behaviors, and decisions, then shifting identity at a subconscious level is the key to lasting transformation. This is why hypnosis, guided affirmations, and subconscious reprogramming are used by those who understand the mechanics of the mind. Sports psychology has proven that mental rehearsal improves actual performance. Studies have shown that athletes who only practiced mentally performed almost as well as those who physically trained. This is because the brain wires itself based on repeated thought patterns. If you repeatedly see yourself as powerful, successful, and unstoppable, your brain will begin to filter reality in a way that aligns with that self-image. This is why elite families teach their children the power of visualization and mental conditioning from an early age. They do not leave success to chance. They install the identity of a winner into their subconscious before they ever step into the world. The question is, how are you using your mind? Are you allowing it to be programmed by external forces, or are you deliberately training it to work in your favor? Because if the mind is the architect of reality, then mastering your thoughts is not just a strategy. It is the foundation of identity shifting. And the moment you take control of that process, you begin to step into a version of yourself that is no longer bound by past limitations, but aligned with infinite possibilities. Strategic exposure to controlled pressure and high-stakes situations. How do the world's most powerful people develop unshakable confidence? How do they remain calm under pressure while others crumble? The answer lies in something the elite are exposed to from an early age: controlled stress. Unlike the average person who avoids discomfort and seeks safety, the wealthy and powerful deliberately place themselves in high-stakes situations. They know that pressure doesn't break you, it builds you. Most people believe confidence comes from talent, intelligence, or luck. But true confidence is forged through experience. The elite don't just read about resilience, they develop it by systematically exposing themselves to challenges that stretch their limits. This is a process known as hormetic stress, the idea that small doses of controlled discomfort make you stronger, just like lifting weights builds muscle. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. He practiced voluntary hardship, choosing to embrace discomfort in order to become mentally unbreakable. He would sleep on the floor, eat simple meals, and expose himself to difficult conditions, not because he had to, but because he wanted to train his mind to remain strong no matter what. The elite do the same. They send their children to elite schools not just for the education, but for the competition. They engage in high-stakes negotiations, public speaking, and leadership challenges long before they are ready. By the time they reach adulthood, they are not afraid of pressure. They thrive in it. Nassim Nicholas Taleb in Anti-Fragile. Things That Gain from Disorder explains that fragile things break under stress, but anti-fragile systems grow stronger. The human mind is the same. When you avoid pressure, you remain weak. When you expose yourself to controlled challenges, you expand your limits. This is why the elite deliberately place themselves in uncomfortable situations, because they understand that growth does not happen in comfort. Think about the most successful people in any field: athletes, business leaders, artists. They all have one thing in common. They have faced high-pressure situations repeatedly until they became immune to fear. The reason elite athletes perform flawlessly under the lights is because they have rehearsed those high-stakes moments so many times that pressure feels normal to them. This is why military training is so intense. Soldiers are deliberately placed in high-stress environments during training so that when real danger arises, they don't panic. Their brains have been conditioned to handle pressure. The elite use the same method. They train their minds through real-world exposure. Now ask yourself, when was the last time you deliberately put yourself in an uncomfortable situation on purpose? When was the last time you challenged yourself to do something you were afraid of? If you avoid pressure, you will always feel weak when it arises. But if you seek it out strategically, you will develop a level of confidence that is unshakable. So how do you apply this? Start small. If you fear public speaking, force yourself to speak in front of people. If you avoid confrontation, put yourself in situations where you must stand your ground. If you fear failure, take calculated risks, where losing won't destroy you, but will teach you resilience. Over time, your mind will adapt. The fear that once paralyzed you will fade, replaced by a sense of control. The elite are not born fearless. They become fearless by training their minds in real-world situations. They know that success is not about avoiding stress. It's about mastering it. And once you do the same, you will realize that pressure is not your enemy. It is the forge that shapes you into the person you were always meant to be. The mastery of public perception and personal branding. Perception is reality. The way the world sees you dictates the opportunities you receive, the influence you wield, and the power you command. The elite understand this better than anyone, which is why they don't just let others define them. They craft their own image with precision. They know that identity is not just an internal concept, but a social construct, and whoever controls the narrative controls the outcome. Think about the most powerful figures in history. Whether political leaders, business moguls, or cultural icons, they all have one thing in common. Their public identity is intentional. Their words, their posture, their expressions, all of it is designed to shape how they are perceived. The average person, on the other hand, moves through life unaware of how they are being seen. They allow their reputation to form accidentally, without realizing that perception influences everything. Robert Greene, in The 48 Laws of Power, explains that managing how others see you is one of the most critical skills in achieving influence. He emphasizes that power is often not about what is true, but about what appears to be true. The elite understand this, which is why they master the art of controlled perception. They know that confidence, status, and authority are often projected before they are ever earned. This is why the wealthy train their children in public speaking, social etiquette, and body language from an early age. They understand that nonverbal cues, eye contact, posture, vocal tone, communicate power just as much as words do. Studies in psychology show that people form first impressions within seconds, and those impressions are incredibly difficult to change. The elite ensure that their presence commands respect the moment they enter a room. In the charisma myth, Olivia Fox Cabane reveals that charisma is not an inborn trait, but a skill that can be developed. She breaks charisma into three components: presence, power, and warmth. Presence means being fully engaged in the moment. Power is conveyed through confidence and status, and warmth creates trust. The elite master these elements, making themselves magnetic to others. Think about the world's most influential individuals. Do they hesitate when they speak? Do they carry themselves with uncertainty? Or do they project a level of assurance that makes people naturally gravitate toward them? This is not accidental. It is the result of deliberate practice. Philosophers have long recognized the power of controlled perception. The Greek statesman Pericles mastered the art of speech, understanding that the right words at the right time could shape the fate of a nation. In more recent times, leaders like Winston Churchill and John F. Kennedy used carefully crafted public personas to inspire millions. But this isn't just about politics or leadership. It applies to every area of life. Whether in business, relationships, or personal success, the way you are perceived determines the doors that open for you. If you are seen as uncertain or unimportant, you will be treated accordingly. But if you train yourself to be someone of value, to command attention and respect, people will respond to you in kind. So how do you apply this? Start by becoming aware of how you present yourself. Observe your body language, the way you speak, the energy you project. Ask yourself, if you met you for the first time, what impression would you have? Then deliberately shape that perception. Speak with clarity. Move with confidence. Enter every room as if you belong there, because you do. The elite don't leave their identity to chance. They construct it. And once you master the art of perception, you will realize that reality is not just something you experience, it is something you create. Ethical identity, shifting, balancing power with integrity. If identity shifting gives you the ability to reshape who you are and how the world perceives you, then it raises an important question. How do you use this power responsibly? The ability to reprogram your mind, influence others, and master perception is a tool. But like any tool, it can be used for good or for manipulation. The elite understand this as well, which is why the most respected among them balance power with integrity. Power without ethics leads to destruction. We have seen this throughout history. Leaders who used their influence for control and domination ultimately faced downfall. but those who mastered themselves not just for personal gain, but for the betterment of others, became legends. True identity shifting is not just about acquiring power, it is about mastery of the self, aligning your transformation with wisdom and purpose. The Dalai Lama teaches that power, when used without compassion, is hollow. In Buddhist philosophy, the concept of right intention reminds us that our choices should be guided not by selfish ambition, but by a deeper sense of alignment with truth. Similarly, virtue ethics, a philosophy championed by Aristotle, emphasizes that character is shaped not just by ability, but by moral excellence. The elite who are remembered through history are those who did not just have power, but used it wisely. Gavin de Becker, in The Gift of Fear, explores the idea that intuition is one of the most powerful tools for ethical decision-making. He explains that when we cultivate self-awareness, we develop a natural sense of what is right and wrong. The elite who operate with integrity are deeply attuned to their intuition. They do not merely chase success, they ensure that their success aligns with their values. This is why the most powerful figures in the world cultivate a strong moral compass. They understand that identity is not just an external projection, but an internal alignment. True self-mastery means making choices that reflect the highest version of oneself. It is not just about manipulating perception, it is about becoming someone worth perceiving as powerful. In many spiritual traditions, identity shifting is seen not just as personal evolution, but as a journey toward enlightenment. Sufi mysticism teaches that the highest form of transformation is self-purification, removing the ego's distortions and aligning with truth. The Upanishads speak of Atman, the deeper self beyond illusion, reminding us that true identity is not based on external validation, but inner mastery. So how do you apply this principle in your own transformation? Start by defining your core values. Ask yourself, who do you want to become, not just in terms of success, but in terms of character? How do you want to be remembered? Then align your identity shift with those values. Let power and integrity evolve together. The elite who stand the test of time are those who understand that real influence is not about deception, it is about authenticity. Identity shifting is not about creating a false version of yourself, but about uncovering the highest version of who you were meant to be. Because when power is fused with wisdom, it doesn't just change your life, it transforms the world around you. Practical steps for implementing identity shifting in your life. Now that you understand how the elite shape their identity, the question becomes, how can you apply these principles to your own life? Identity shifting is not an abstract concept. It is a process that can be broken down into actionable steps. The key is to approach this transformation systematically rather than leaving it to chance. The elite don't hope for success. They engineer it. The first step is awareness. Before you can shift your identity, you must recognize the mental programming that has shaped you until now. What beliefs have you absorbed from your upbringing? What assumptions do you hold about yourself, your capabilities, and your potential? These beliefs act as the foundation of your self-image, and if they are limiting, they must be challenged. Carol Dweck's mindset. The new psychology of success teaches that the difference between those who grow and those who remain stuck is their belief in their ability to change. The elite are conditioned to see challenges as opportunities rather than obstacles. If you want to shift your identity, you must adopt this perspective. Instead of saying, "I'm not the kind of person who," start saying, "I am becoming the kind of person who." The second step is rewiring your self-image through environment and repetition. Neuroscience confirms that identity is reinforced by consistent patterns of thought, behavior, and surroundings. The elite immerse themselves in environments that reflect their desired self-concept. If you want to think like a high performer, surround yourself with people, books, and experiences that align with that identity. Engage with content that challenges and expands your thinking. Another crucial aspect of identity shifting is embodiment. You must act as if the transformation has already occurred. This is not about pretending, it's about training your subconscious mind to accept the new identity as reality. If you see yourself as a leader, how would you walk into a room? How would you speak? How would you handle setbacks? Every action you take either strengthens or weakens the identity you are creating. Visualization and mental rehearsal are also powerful tools. Olympic athletes, CEOs, and world-class performers use these techniques because they train the brain to accept success before it happens. When you vividly imagine yourself excelling in your new identity, your subconscious mind begins to adjust accordingly. If you repeat this process daily, your brain will start filtering reality in a way that aligns with your new self-image. Finally, reinforce your transformation through strategic discomfort. Growth does not happen in the comfort zone. The elite actively seek out challenges that force them to expand. If you want to shift your identity, you must step into situations that test you. The more you prove to yourself that you are this new version of you, the more your brain will solidify that belief. Identity shifting is not an overnight process, but it is inevitable once you commit to it. The elite don't just become powerful, they train themselves to embody power every single day. The question is, will you? Because the moment you decide to take control of your identity, you are no longer at the mercy of past conditioning. You become the architect of your own transformation. The power to reinvent yourself. A final reflection. What if everything you believed about yourself was a choice? What if every label, every limitation, every expectation you've ever accepted was simply a construct, one that could be rewritten at any moment? This is the hidden truth the elite have always known. Identity is fluid, not fixed. And the greatest power a person can possess is the ability to consciously reshape who they are. Most people never question their identity. They live their lives based on inherited beliefs, old experiences, and societal programming that tells them who they are and what they are capable of. They carry childhood insecurities into adulthood. They replay past failures as if they define their future. They live as if their identity is something they discover rather than something they create. But here's the truth. You are not who you were yesterday. You are not defined by your past. You are not limited by old stories or outdated self-concepts. At any moment, you have the ability to shift, to step into a new version of yourself, to think differently, to act differently, to become someone entirely new. Ichiro Kishimi and Fumitake Koga, in The Courage to be Disliked, explore the philosophy of radical self-reinvention. They argue that our attachment to identity is often the very thing that holds us back. The moment we realize that we are not bound by the past, we become free to create the future. This is what identity shifting is truly about. It's not just about success, wealth, or influence. It's about self-mastery. It's about recognizing that you are not a passive participant in your life. You are the author of it. The elite have been trained to understand this from birth, but now you have the same knowledge. The only question that remains is, what will you do with it? If you've made it this far, something within you is already shifting. You wouldn't be drawn to this knowledge if a part of you wasn't ready to evolve. You're already stepping into a new version of yourself, one that is more aware, more intentional, and more powerful than ever before. The next step is action. Right now, make a decision. Decide who you want to be. Decide what beliefs, habits, and environments you will adopt to reinforce that identity. Decide to stop living as a product of past conditioning and start living as a conscious creator of your future. Because in the end, identity is not something you find, it's something you choose, and once you realize that, you become unstoppable.